Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Blow Daz.
I'm Gaynor. I'm Sophie.
Okay, first of all, if you're not subscribed, subscribe, otherwise Sophie's going to come and get you.
Yeah, you've been warned.
And you don't want that. We're going to do the accent expert. I like this guy.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name.
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
He speaks very well.
He does.
As an accent expert, you probably would.
Let's hope
and his
so.
videos are real interesting. I know you guys just did part one of the accents around the USA, didn't you?
Yes.
And he's an interesting guy, isn't he?
He is.
The way he explains stuff. Mm-hmm. So I found this other video he's done called Accent Expert Breaks Down Language Pet Peeves. I have a lot of pet peeves when I speak to people. I mean, I'm a victim of it as well. You know, I do this stuff I say and do, and I think that's wrong. That.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you try and correct yourself, and you try and have the right things to say, but there's certain things that I used to know a guy who used to call people like a southerner bitch. He used to go southern a bitch, and I'd be like son of her, not southerner.
Oh, really?
It's son of her. Yeah.
You would say southerner.
No, he'd say sov on her.
Savannah.
Yeah. He just used to get it mixed up.
Yeah.
And he was these people who say certain phrases, and I'm like, that's not the right phrase. Stop saying it. Yeah. You know, I'm just like, stop saying it, but you can't correct people.
Yeah.
You kind of try and do it like subliminally a little bit. You sort of like, oh, they'll say like, son of a bitch, and you go, son of a, and they go, yeah, and then say it again the wrong way, and you're like, can't win.
Try.
No.
I don't know if that's what he's getting down to with their pet peeves, but that's that's a pet peeve with me. So should we get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Eric Singer. I'm a dialect coach.
Eric Singer.
Have you ever noticed that people tend to have some really strong feelings around language use, around the words we use, and even the way we say them? Today, I want to talk about some of the most common language peeves, where they come from, and maybe even debunk a few of the most persistent myths.
That's what we're talking about, isn't it? Figures of speech.
Search the internet for language or grammar pet peeves, and you're bound to find people venting about other people using expressions like "for all intensive purposes" or "a new leash on life."
Oh.
These are called eggcorns. No, not acorns, eggcorns. The original expressions, of course, are "for all intents and purposes" and "a new lease on life." But you can kind of see where those misheard ones come from. They sort of make sense, and they certainly sound like the originals.
One of my biggest pet peeves, and one I don't even know why I'm on it, is Facebook. Yeah. It does my nutting, right? Because someone always says something and go, he's a prima donna, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the phrase prima donna?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then people put P-R-E space Madonna. So I'm like, oh, did this happen before Madonna was about, did it? Yeah. And they go, what do you mean? And I'm like, forget it. And I'm like, don't get into it. No point arguing. You can't argue with that.
The problem is you've got a lot of friends who are thick.
You just get smarter friends on
I hope
there.
you're all watching.
I hate it though when like I'll just see like people post and stuff and the spelling won't be right. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, they'll get the wrong there, or they'll be like, two, or like, you know, it's like, oh, I've had too much going on, or like, and it's like, it should be T-double, and I'm just like, how can you not know the basic things? It's
small things,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Spelling's tough in itself.
It really Exactly. Do you know what I used to think though, saying like, pronouncing things wrong? You know, the shoe shop, shoe?
Yeah.
I used to say it how it's actually spelt, so I used to think it was called Scotch. And I remember saying to my friend, should we go to Scotch? And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, Scotch, the shoe shop? And she was like, you mean shoe? I was like, yeah.
No hope. But it's like, yeah, the spelling on I had someone complain to someone last week about their spelling and then spelt their wrong. And I'm like, oh, shall I just jump in here and let them know? Yeah.
Should have done.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to bring in my colleague, fellow dialect coach Eliza Simpson, to help me here. Hi, Eliza.
Hi.
Here are some other examples you may have heard, or maybe you use them yourself. It's a dog-eat-dog world.
Dog eat dog world.
You need to nip that in the bud.
Nip that in the bud.
He's a social leopard.
He's a social leper.
Curl up in the feeble position.
Fetal position.
Do you have any favorites?
Curve your hunger.
Right, that's to curb your hunger.
Cold slaw.
Oh, yeah. Bothers me
Card
that.
shark.
Which is a card sharp, originally. There's a great Rick and Morty clip with an eggcorn in it. Let's have a look.
Really makes you think, huh, Morty? We should never take things for granted.
What?
I'm just saying, life's short. We shouldn't take things for granted.
Are you saying granite?
Well, yeah.
What I love about this clip is that I think it demonstrates the kind of really strong feelings about language that we're talking about.
It's granted with a D. Take things for granted. Did you actually think it was? Jesus Christ, Rick.
Even super educated, super genius Rick,
Oh, you like that, huh? I bet that really blows your mind.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of great.
he's misheard to take something for granted as to take it for granite all his life. So I love acorns. I think they're really fun and creative. They're also an example of the way that language changes over time. Acorns are a kind of transitional stage. There are lots of words and expressions in the language, completely official, correct words and expressions, that began as the same kind of creative mishearings as these acorns. These are called folk etymologies. A folk etymology is basically an acorn that has crossed over the line from being wrong or incorrect or misheard to being, in fact, the only right, correct, accepted version of a word or a phrase. A burger actually comes from Hamburg, the city of Hamburg, with the at the end, meaning someone who comes from there. But it gets reanalyzed as ham plus burger, so we can take that part out and go, oh, it's a burger. Shamefaced was originally shamefast, with fast meaning to be frozen or stuck in place, so to be stuck in place by shame, shamefast. But that's kind of archaic, and so shamefaced seems like it makes more sense, but that's now correct. The word female is not etymologically related to the word male at all. It comes from Old French femelle, and when it came into English, it was like, oh, that's like male, so it became female. Cockroach comes from Spanish cucaracha and has nothing to do.
I wonder why they put female and cockroach next to each other.
Oh, I wonder why. They're watching too much Bill Burr.
Actually, today, Aiden's not here today, so he's not got no support, and today I feel like Cinderella.
Very funny.
With cock or roach, both existing English words at the time that it was brought into the language. And woodchucks have absolutely nothing to do with either wood or chucking it. The name comes from an Algonquian language. In Narragansett, it's Oquitchuan, which sounded like woodchuck. So by all means, enjoy the acorns that you find in the wild, and maybe don't use them in formal writing. But let's have a little perspective here. Today's creative mishearing is in fact tomorrow's unquestioned correct usage. Next, I want to talk about vocal fry and uptalk. You might associate vocal fry with speakers like Kim Kardashian.
And I realized it was just the lighting.
Or Lena Dunham.
My team's just been amazing, and I've got to give all my love to my team.
So what is vocal fry? Your vocal folds, which are right here, vibrate very, very rapidly when you're producing normal voice, what we call modal voice. That's probably about 180, 200 times per second. It's so fast you can't even hear the individual pulses. But if I slow that way, 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 way down by using a little bit less air, maybe I'm putting a little extra tension in here, you can start to hear the individual pulses of my vocal folds coming together. So you can try this at home. Let's all start on modal voice going, and then lower your pitch down until your voice starts to creak. It may help if you start to sort of run out of air a little bit. Now I'm Elma Fudd. So what is uptalk or upspeak? It's going up at the end of a sentence, going up with your pitch using...
That's what the Australians do.
I was going to say, the Australians go up at the end, don't
Oh yeah, they do.
And Americans do as well. And what happened is when you put our accent, that's why a lot of people think we're Australian in America. Because what you do is you become you become like a bit of you had a bit of Americanism into your accent, so people understand you more.
Yeah.
So you talk a little bit slower, a little bit clearer, but you also talk in their same format, which finishes on an up. So you're up talking on that, so it makes you sound a little bit Australian. Yeah. Doesn't it?
Yeah. I said a lot of people have asked us if we're Australian.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I just say just.
So what's your like go-to like American voice? Like when you're over in America?
How you doing? Hey, forget about it.
No, but like how you say you went to visit.
No, I just talk like this. I talk like this wherever I go in the world.
You just speak slower, don't you?
Yeah, I was sort of like real like slow or something. No, we like no. I talk the same no matter who I'm with, where I'm going, what I'm doing. It's the same voice, the same phrases.
But when we first moved there, you had to slow your voice down because nobody could understand.
Yeah.
We were somewhere and somebody stopped us and said, "What language are you talking?"
Yeah.
Because we were talking so fast to each other. They didn't understand what we were saying.
Richard told them we were speaking Latin. What do you need to know?
So intellectual.
A rising tone. Hi, my name is Eric. Linguists call this high rising terminal at the end of a sentence. So these two vocal behaviors, fry and uptalk, come in for a lot of criticism. So what do people complain about? Well, they complain that fry and uptalk both can make you sound less intelligent, less sure of yourself, less trustworthy, less competent, less educated, even less attractive. Vocal fry is sometimes claimed to damage your voice, in fact. One thing it's hard not to notice is that most of the time when people are complaining about vocal fry and uptalk, they're complaining about women's voices, and especially young women. And it's not just women who do this. Let's try our own experiment, shall we? Let's take one sentence, the first sentence from the Gettysburg Address. I'm going to do it with some creak in my voice. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Eliza, would you do the same?
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
So, what did you think? Do you have different associations when you hear it from a male voice 77 years ago than when you hear it from a female voice?
77 years ago.
You do, don't you?
So creaky voice actually has a linguistic function in some languages. In Danish, for example, the word hun, without any creak in your voice, means she, but the word hun means dog. So you have to actually put that creak in, and you can change the meaning of a word. In Burmese, ka means shake, and ka means attend on. You have to add creaky voice, and it means something totally different, otherwise the syllable is exactly the same. The Mexican language Jalapa Mazatec actually has a three-way contrast between modal voice, creaky voice, and breathy voice. So we could take the same syllable, ya, which with that tone means tree, but if I do it with breathy voice, ya, it means he carries. And if I do it with creaky voice, ya, it means he wears. Same syllable.
Oh, weird.
So if creak is a linguistic feature of some languages, you're doing it all day long, it can't be damaging for your voice. I think we can put that one to bed.
That could get in a lot of trouble. Like, what's he wearing? No, I didn't say he was wearing anything. He's a tree. Yeah. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that'd be confusing, that wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I thought ours like OUGH. She's very tough.
Yeah.
Very tough. See,
Tough.
tough, rough.
Yeah.
Though.
Next up, grammar rules. Eliza, sometimes people literally light their hair on fire when other people mix up your and your or use apostrophes for plurals.
Or those signs in the grocery store that say 10 items or less.
Right, because we're supposed to use the word fewer for that, right?
Where did that come from?
The idea that we should say 10 items or fewer instead? Well, let's talk about that. But I can't help but notice that you just ended a sentence with a preposition.
Where did that come from?
Yep.
You got a problem with that?
Can we table that for now?
Did you just use the noun table as a verb?
Yes, I did. Let's start there, because that's actually something that really bugs people. The verbing of nouns. Shakespeare wrote, "But now to task the tasker." And in another play, "Dost dialogue with thy shadow," turning both task and dialogue into verbs. It's been happening for hundreds of years. Here are some examples of some really common verbs that began life as nouns. Divorce, model, mail, host, diagnose, salt, pepper, highlight, mastermind. It turns out a lot of these grammar rules that you learned in elementary school were just made up in the 17th or 18th century. So ending sentences with prepositions. The first person apparently to have a problem with this was John Dryden in 1672, who criticized Ben Jonson, a playwright colleague of Shakespeare's, for saying, "The preposition in the end of the sentence, a common fault with him." That rule against splitting infinitives to boldly go, has a really similar backstory. It shows up really in 1864 in a book, A Plea for the Queen's English by Henry Alford. So these prescriptions are both based in Latin grammar. In Latin, an infinitive is one word. You literally can't split it. You can't put something between it the way you can between to go, to boldly go in English. And you can't put a preposition at the end of the sentence. In English you can, of course. Latin was sort of held up by very educated people in the 17th and 18th centuries as the perfect language. Grammatically, it's really a very, very different language with different bones, different structure, different rules. So to say English should be more like Latin is really pretty ridiculous. Less versus fewer, it was a guy named Robert Baker in 1770, and he was really just even expressing a preference for the way he thought they should be used or the way he liked to use them. But that then got latched onto and hardened into a prescription and beaten into us by our third grade teachers. It's kind of a weird thing. It doesn't change the way most people speak most of the time. So most people don't walk around saying, from where did you come? And with whom did you go? And on what did you step? We just don't do that. But nevertheless, we still have this idea.
Someone said that to you. You'd be like,
know.
where is it, 1600s?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's very old-fashioned.
But when you go, we were saying before, we went to Stratford-upon-Avon, and when you go there and you speak to the people who work in the bars or in the restaurants or in the hotels,
do they speak like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of, as if they're all training to be Shakespearean, like to work at the RSC or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all
very, they all speak a little bit different.
Speak very well-to-do, kind of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say they were well-to-do. They just all talk with like a funny.
As if they're like actors,
Yeah.
waiting to go in the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah. But they're not. They're just like
the waiters in the bar.
Yeah.
You know, but just speak to me as you. I always think to people, just speak to me like you're having a chat with your mate.
Yeah.
Just relax, chill, just chat with me like that. Don't put anything on.
Yeah.
Don't want fake voices, fake like, look at me, I'm super posh, look at me, I'm super tough, look at me, I'm super this. I'm like, just talk to me as you would be your family.
Yeah.
And everything's easy, it'll be good.
Yeah.
We had a friend, well, obviously I'm not going to name her, but...
Was it Julie?
But she would put on this like posh accent
Yeah, I know you mean.
and was a different person, and then when the people had gone that she was trying to impress, she'd go back to being normal. And I used to think, why can't you just be yourself?
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a telephone voice though?
No.
See, I feel like sometimes I do put on a bit of like a telephone voice. As to like when I'm
give us a go
normal.
of it, go on. Say, hello, my name is Sophie, how can I help you?
Hello, my name is Sophie, how can I help you?
But even when you do the intros, I've noticed you
Yeah, I go a bit like...
My name is Sophie.
Hi,
You sing-
yes.
you
Yeah,
sing
that's what
it.
I mean. I do it a bit like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then as I get into it, I'll probably relax a little bit more. It's not like initial, hi.
It's just three of us sat here, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just having a
And
chat.
millions watching us out there.
Yeah, that somehow it's incorrect. It's not. Okay, next up, word usage. Almost everybody has pet peeves about words they feel should absolutely not be used in certain ways. Literally, anybody? Literally, of course, means exactly, precisely, just like that, as I said, right? In a literal manner. I am literally talking to you right now. I am literally sitting on a chair. It has another meaning, and that meaning is not the opposite of literally. It's not figuratively, as people sometimes say. It's used as an intensifier. I'm literally dying right now. But this is the thing about words. They acquire new meanings all the time. Meanings can drift, but meanings can also be added to. It's part of the process of language change. Here's some other examples. Disinterested traditionally doesn't mean uninterested. It means dispassionate, uninvested, not having a stake in the outcome. It is often now used as a synonym for uninterested, actively not interested in something. So it's acquired that meaning as well. Ironic. This is a big can of worms. So irony is when something happens that is unexpected, that is the opposite of what you expect. An example might be rain on your wedding day. If you got married in a desert specifically to avoid having it rain on your wedding day, that would unambiguously be ironic. Verbal irony is just when you say the opposite, the literal opposite of what you actually mean. Now, people sometimes use the word ironic to describe situations that are maybe just unfortunate or coincidental, a free ride when you've already paid, or even the good advice that you just didn't take. So I actually sympathize with the desire to complain about at least some of these usages. Sometimes there's a shade of nuance or meaning that feels important and useful and like it's being watered down or like it's being lost. The thing is, this is just something that happens, and it is also part of the inexorable process of language change. The word nice, it originally meant silly or foolish. The word silly did almost exactly the opposite. It originally meant something like blessed or worthy before it came to mean what it does today. So you just can't stand against the tide. It's going to change no matter what. Here's something that might help though. English is really flexible, language is really flexible, and words can have more than one meaning. We go on like that just fine. We even have a bunch of words that can mean their own opposite. Take a word like sanction. Sanction can mean to approve of or to forbid and condemn. Consult can mean to either seek advice or to give advice. To dust can mean either to sprinkle with a fine powder or to remove it from something. So I think we're going to be okay with literally. You can use it to mean exactly what you want to use it to mean and be understood, and other people can use it in a very different sense and also be understood. That can all coexist together. The central fact of language is that it changes and is changing all the time. Some of the richness of English in particular comes from some of these borrowings and mistakes and transformations and permutations. And you're allowed to have your own personal opinions and preferences. We all do, but it's important to have a little humility and some perspective, and to realize that the forms and meanings of words are ultimately determined by the speakers of a language, not by any centralized authorities, and that you simply can't freeze it in place. And nor should we want to. The diversity of expression, of forms, of meanings is one of the richest and most fascinating things about language. It's something to be celebrated and to be enjoyed.
Brilliant.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Tongue twisters.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I did.
It's one. I know he's a vocabulary coach or a dialect coach or whatever, but he talks really well, doesn't he? He's very like intriguing. He gets
very engaging.
Gets right in your head, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But
he's got quite a calming voice as well.
Yeah, he couldn't. And he even sat next to me at the football.
Yeah.
So
I need him sat next to you at the football.
So he can tell me what the exact words I'm shouting at him is. Yeah. So tell me some good words to shout. Yeah. I remember we were at the football once and talking about pet peeves and stuff. We had all these Welsh police officers stood in front of me. And some guy next to us was Welsh, and he said, "Say this." And he's giving me all the swear words to say to the police.
In
so
Welsh?
the cop kept turning around and looking at me. And I went, "Welsh cops?" And he went, "Yeah, and?" And I went, is anything wrong with that? And he was like, "What's your problem?" I went, "Because we're in England." He didn't like that. No. That was a pet peeve for him. But some good ones there as well, because I'm looking at that FBI agent breaks down body language pet peeves. So it's a good channel, isn't it, Wyatt?
Yeah, it's really good.
But I enjoyed that. That's,
I like knowing where like language comes from as well, like the history of it.
Yeah.
Like, I find that really fascinating.
There's some words there, weren't there? Silly and things like that, which have the opposite meaning.
Yeah,
sort of
meant like, was it blessed?
Blessed, yeah.
Yeah, grateful or something.
But there's one word I don't think definitely needs using, basically.
Yeah. Aiden uses it all the time.
It means nothing.
Do you know what he actually does?
He uses it all the time. You ask him something, he goes, "Well, basically." I'm like, just tell me without using the word basically, and he can't.
And it means exactly the same. Whatever people tell you without using that word, it's exactly the same.
You don't need to use it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Hope you guys did too. Don't forget to subscribe as well, please. It does help the channel grow. And we will catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.